Hi and welcome back to another art journal video. Today I'm going to create a double spread in my Dylusions art journal. This is the mini one, and you can see it's a well-loved art journal, only a few pages left, but I think that I will not make another project in this book since it's already very thick. And I'm going to start with one of my favorite techniques for creating borders. I will tear off about half an inch from the edges of both my pages, which is going to reveal what's behind. This is a great technique if you don't want to add any extra pages on your book. It's already thick. I am going to add more dimension by having 2 pages for my spread, and at the same time I'm not adding any extra bulk on the book. You can make your actual pages shorter either by tearing them off like I do with my fingers. This is going to give a lovely rough edge on your pages, or you can use your scissors. Also notice that I'm not measuring anything with a ruler. I'm just eyeballing about half an inch. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's a great technique that gives you extra layers on your page and at the same time creates a border. So once you do that all around, this is what you will have left. And of course you can tear off even a bigger section and make your border as thick as you like. For adding color on my background, I will play with acrylic paints. These are the Distress paints by Team Holtz. I have this one, which is an old one with a dabber, which happens to be completely dry. The dabber doesn't work. And the new ones come with that flip top, which makes it easier. Anyway, I'm going to use both of them. I don't want to waste any paint. I will use those older bottles until they are completely empty. Now, I am going for a winter theme today. And I decided for my color palette to go with blues and browns. So I am applying a first layer of color on my pages. I went with Speckled, and to make it look more cooler, I introduced a little bit of cool grey, which is weathered wood. Instead of applying the color with a brush, I decided to go with a baby wipe today. This is a technique that I used to do a lot. When you apply the paint with a baby wipe, it allows you to blend the colors beautifully, makes your job super easy, plus it applies the color lightly. You can see I have just a very light shade of color there, and that allows you to build up the color as you go. You don't end up with too much paint in the beginning. And of course you can dry one layer and then go ahead and build up even more color on top of it if you want to make it darker. I am going for a very subtle look and feel for my background today. That's why I'm not going to add even more blues and greys on the background. However, I'm introducing a little bit of vintage photo. I'm adding a touch of it with my baby wipe, and I'm working wet on wet here, so it is really easy to blend it out even with my finger. If you notice, I'm mainly staying on the edges, and I do add a little bit here. This is where I am planning to add a cluster, so I want to have some contrast there. And again, blending everything with my fingers. And one of my favorite techniques is to add some splashes. I'm using again this same color, that's vintage photo, and adding some splashes here and there. And then let's add some visual texture at the background to make it look more interesting. So for that I'm going to need a couple of stencils, some paste and an ink pad. For stenciling today I chose 2 of my very loved stencils. This is the Burlap one. I have been using it for years, again and again. You can see how well loved those stencils are, really dirty. And I'm going to go over the areas where I did that brown at the background. The ink I used was ground espresso. Just choose a slightly darker ink so that it shows over the brown. Now I will switch to this dot fade stencil, and this is full of dots. So in a winter project it's going to give the look and feel of snow. Here I'm using embossing paste, but you can also use texture paste, modeling paste, anything works really, even gesso. I need to leave this art journal aside for all the paste to dry, and here is a close-up look on how it looks at the moment. So in the meanwhile, let's work on the focal point, and today I'm going with this lovely birdhouse which I designed for Spellbinders. This is my winter birdhouse set. All my birdhouses were designed quite big so that they make a great focal point for an art journal. So if you happen to have any of them in your collection, there are 4 of them, one for every season, then you can work with the one that you have if you try to recreate the project that I'm making today. I cut it out from mixed media cardstock, and if you notice, you will end up with lovely details. This die not only cuts out, it also embosses. So here I have a bunch of snowflakes that I have been collecting throughout the years in different sizes. I used those to cut out white snowflakes that I can use on my project to embellish it. Also in my set you will find lots of elements to play with. For my project I'm going to use the mistletoe branch. I'm going to cut it lots of times as well as that snow. Anyway, for now I'm going to add some color on my birdhouse. I'm just going over it and inking it up with a little bit of brown. By adding that brown you will see that all those embossed details are going to come to life. And I'm also going to cut out the roof one more time from brown cardstock. I will grab my scissors and separate only the roof. There are already indentations, so you know exactly where you are supposed to cut it out. Again, keep in mind that I'm having a specific color theme on my mind, so I'm going with browns and blues, but depending on your project, this birdhouse can look completely different. You can even cut it out from pattern paper. In the set you will find dies that cut out snow. You can add it at the top of the roof or even on the branch. Now I'm going to do some spraying. I just cut out those leaves many times, and I use distress sprays in blues as well as in greys. This is ice spruce, for example, and I also used faded jeans and prize ribbon. Just different shades of blue will do the trick. And I have lots of extra spray paint on the box. I didn't want that to go to waste, so I'm just swiping over a scrap piece of mixed media paper. I will use this piece in a bit when I will cut out my birds out of it. Now for the border I'm going with ground espresso, which is a very dark brown. I am using the old bottle with the dabber, which is very handy in this case, and it happened not to be clogged and dry, so it works just fine. I will apply one layer, I will let it dry and then go back to make it even darker. I want to stay out of black for this page, but the black border would work just fine as well, since it would make those colors in the main pages pop even more. Once that border was completely dry, I used some glue and I'm sticking the pages down. So this way I end up having layers that makes the project look more interesting. I do end up having a border that frames the project nicely, and that's why I love this technique so much. So now I have pretty much all the elements that I need ready to go, and it's time to put the page together. I am going to use a bit of that corrugated cardstock. I love these ones because they do add texture, and they pretty much go with any project. I am going to tear off a little piece, I'm going to stick it down, and although this is one of the Tim Holtz textures that they do have, they are self-adhesive, I always like to add a bit of glue at the back just to make sure that they are going to stay put. The corrugated cardstock is quite thick, so if I stick it like that, it's going to be uneven. That's why I'm going to stick a couple of scrap pieces at the back, or of course you can go with foam tape. So I'm going to put on some music and let you see how I put together that cluster, and I will also create a cluster on the other side of the page. That one is going to be smaller, but it is going to incorporate pretty much the same elements like the big one with the birdhouse, including the corrugated cardstock, some blue branches as well as snowflakes. Also keep in mind that depending on the color scheme that you use, you can easily turn this space from winter into a holiday themed one. Now to make it even more cute, I'm going to use my bird dies. This is another set that I designed for this collection, and I'm going to cut out 2 of them from these papers that I sprayed earlier. I also have lots of those sprayed papers in my stash as scraps, so I cut out the birds one more time from one that had greys on top. And now I'm just going to put the birds together. There are only 3 pieces for each one of them, the main body, the belly and the wings. I'm going to put them together and I will decide later on what fits better on my page depending on the colors that I have underneath. So I want those birdies to kind of pop against the background, so I do have a couple of variations of colors to play with. Again, however, I'm staying on the same blue theme. I always end up with more birds than I need for my project, but I can always keep them along with the dies for another project. You can ink up the edges of your birds a little bit so that they have the same look and feel as the rest of the elements. I'm also going to pick a sticker that says Winter Wonderland. That's white with golden writing, and it is from a set from previous year by Holtz that has all those stickers included. Now I'm going to back it up with a scrap piece of paper to make it look thicker and sturdier. I stick it down at the bottom of my birdhouse, and then on top I'm going to stick one of the birdies. I found all these birds super adorable, and I'm allowed to say that since after all I'm the one who designed them. All 4 of the birdhouses as well as the birds are super popular and they all sell out on online shops. Thank you so much for that. If you try to grab any of the sets and you find that it is out of stock, don't worry. This is not a collection that is going discontinued. It's going to stay here even for 2022. So everyone is going to restock. Now here I am debating on which bird looks better on top of the house. I don't know which one stands out better. I think they both look just fine. But don't mind me, it can take me forever to audition little elements and try to decide where everything should go. Anyway, I'm going to move on, and for my main quote, I'm going with these dies. These are by Waffle Flower and I absolutely love them, nice and chunky. I am going to cut out the word snow out of brown cardstock and out of white cardstock. And from the white one, I'm going to cut out the tops in a curve, which is going to give the illusion of snow when I stick it on top of the brown letters. So once I had all the pieces, I'm just using my glue to stick one on top of the other. And then I'm going for Let It Snow. If you follow my videos, you already know that I like for my quotes to combine bigger and smaller fonts, so I'm using the word snow out of cutout letters, and for the Let It, I'm going to use a part of this sticker, again from the same pack that I used the Winter Wonderland, golden letters on top of a white sticker. Notice also that my little bird is standing on top of the letter O and the O is falling apart. Just a fun touch there. And now it's time for some doodling. For that I'm going to grab a very fine tip black marker. I'm going around the bird. This is going to help it stand out against the background even more. And of course I did that for both the birds. I'm also going to outline the sticker quotes. And you probably know already what's the next step. I'm going to grab my white gel pen and add the highlights. Again, just like always, I'm not paying too much attention on where the light source is. I'm just adding sketchy white lines here and there that really make a difference in my pages. And then of course we do have to add some white splashes. I just diluted a little bit of white paint with water. And this is a touch that I like to do in pretty much every page, but specifically in this page it is a must. After all, it's about winter and snow. And of course I can go on with final touches forever, but I promise you this is the last one. I'm doing a little bit of dry brushing with white paint over the corrugated cardstock, so all those mountains is going to grab a little bit of that white paint. And it's time to call this page done. Here is a close-up look on the project. I had so much fun playing with my dies today. I hope you had too. Don't forget to leave me a comment. Down below in the description area you will find links to everything I used. Thank you all so much for watching and I'll see you all next time.